Hey, y'all, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Squeaks.
Squeaks.
Okay. And then we also have Aaron with us from Fandom Portals.
G'day, everybody. How you going? It's Aaron from Australia.
Aaron is the latest member of the Geek Freaks Network. He's got a podcast, Fandom Portals, coming out on the 10th, right? There we go.
On the 10th, yep. Correct, yeah.
Aaron is one day in the future from us, so he knows the future and we don't, and it throws things off a little bit for me.
Yeah, my 10th is your 9th, and
I know it messes me up so bad. I'm like, okay, so I got to make sure to make the post out this day. Can you tell us a little bit about Fandom Portals?
Sure can. So Fandom Portals is a podcast creation that I've sort of started, and it all stemmed from me sort of enjoying like geeky conversations like the ones you guys have on Geek Freaks and Challenge Accepted and things like that. But all of the content on the podcast is completely community driven. So we like to answer community questions about their favorite fandoms. And it also encourages experts and also members of the fandom who pose the questions to come on and have a chat with me about that question. So we go through deep dives as well. So if your question is something to do with the Batman and all the gadgets that he has, then that's something that we'll research and we'll give you a deep dive on that, all the while connecting with the community at the same time. The episodes usually run from about half an hour to about an hour. So got a bit of meat and potatoes in there as well, and you get to meet some new people. But the biggest thing about the podcast is just the fact that it's really connected to that social media and making social media social again, and giving you a space for your fandom to explore the geeky stuff that you love in a safe sort of way. So that's it. That's Fandom Portals.
That is great. We're going to deep dive into Fandom Portals later on, but I do want to touch on the social media aspect of it. What fandom do you feel is the most vocal on social media?
I think the most vocal fandom that I've encountered so far is definitely the Star Wars fandom. Yeah. And it's polarizing too. The Star Wars fandom is either very, very negative or very, very passionate. And it depends like where you go and on what social media too, as to which one that you find. And I think, it's important to remember to protect yourself, not obviously dive into keyboard battles with the trolls and things like that. But there is definitely spaces on the internet for you to find and talk about the things that you like in Star Wars. And I found that Threads is usually pretty good in terms of the positive interaction. Or at least I've found a positive Star Wars community there. But yeah, it just goes back to lots of people love their stuff, like they love their fandom and they wanted to see it represented in the correct way. And I find that most of the disagreements sort of happen when expectation doesn't meet reality in terms of like a show or something that happens. And you just got to remember, these are all stories. They're up to interpretation. Fandoms fans are allowed their opinion, but as long as you're sort of connecting with respect and you can say, okay, your opinion isn't the same as mine, that's absolutely fine. We can still have a discourse and talk about it, like we can still love the same thing, even though we love it in different ways.
Yeah, totally.
Different parts of it too.
It's going to be interesting to explore all these different fandoms. I'm looking forward to it for sure. Let's go ahead and get into our question of the week. We're going to start again with you, Aaron. The question of the week is, what was the first comic book or graphic novel that got you hooked? What was it for you?
So my first comic book series was an X-Men Marvel series, and it was an older one. It was the Dark Phoenix Saga, which I think was Uncanny X-Men 133 to whatever. But it was that first time that one of the X-Men characters actually sort of turned against their team. And at the time, I didn't really sort of understand or have context because I hadn't read anything beforehand, but I fell in love with the colors. I fell in love with the characters, and I just loved that they were like a motley crew of outcasts and misfits just put together. And they just worked really sort of well together, and they're all going for the same goal, and they loved each other like a family. And that's where my love of Marvel and X-Men just sort of stemmed from. I was just reading those comics there, and I found them in bargain bins. The best place to look.
That's crazy to find those in the bargain bins.
Yeah.
Squeaks.
What about you guys?
What was it got you hooked?
Yeah. Oh man, that's tough. So obviously been a Swan fan my whole life when I was little, and I think that's what like really got me into comics. But I think what really hooked me, and I've said this character once before, and it ties into Spawn in a way because it's coming from the same publisher, you could say. So from Image Comics, I'm going to say Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know what it is because I always still think of the one still image of him on the cover where he's wearing this tank top and he's just like super buff. And it looks like he's busting through something. I don't know why, but that image is always like just burned in my brain. So I think that if I had to pick a single comic, maybe that. But yeah, if it was like a series of correspond, like that's my baby right there.
That's a good one. That I mean, I haven't read a Savage Dragon and I couldn't even tell you how long.
Oh,
So
same.
crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you either.
Great
Yeah.
covers though. Great covers. Let's go to our threads and see what some other people have said. Aaron says the death of this is Aaron S. Actually, a cool friend of mine. The Death of Superman comic books is the first comic book I can remember buying it as a kid. That was so iconic 90s, right? I remember those covers. I even used like the Doomsday as our image for this. And then the 4 Superman replacing him, stuff like that. Classic 90s. It's probably one of the most 90s stories.
Was that Death of Superman?
Yes.
You said, yeah, that's the one with the cape on the stick in the ruined city. Is that right? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Yeah, that's a classic image. I think they put something up for the movie in regards to that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did some advertising for
mistaken?
it because of his redemption and the Zack Snyder's like the rebirth. One thing I loved about this question in comparison to the last questions we've done in the past is people are actually posting that comic. So I've had a lot of fun looking at other people's pictures of comics. That's the Life of Alfie posted Spider-Man Weekly, an old school 5-cent comic. My God, I miss those days. I wish they were 5 cents nowadays.
Wow. Yeah. Inflation's hit comics hard.
Yeah, it has. And then we have Detective Comics 651. I don't even know when this was released, but I'll say it was in the 90s because that Batman has some sharp ass cape on him. Everything was super sharp, edgelord all day. Now here's one for you, another favorite. This one's from Jason the Hillman. And Squeaks, I think this might be one of your favorites too. It's Batman 493, I think it is, and it's the Batbreaker episode where Bane breaks Batman's back.
Oh yeah.
Over the knee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Iconic.
That's a good one.
There are
Just
so many answers.
Visage. Yeah.
It's so and then when they did it again in the movie too, I was like, oh, we were waiting for this one. This is classic.
Yeah.
There are so many great comic books shared over on our threads, guys. Check it out over on Threads. Follow us on all social media. It's really great. And follow Fandom Portals, by the way. All the links in the description. Start doing that now.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah. No, Threads is awesome. It's a good place to connect.
Really is. Let's go ahead and get into the news of the week. We're going to start off with Superman. It wraps production. James Gunn's thanking the fans and the crews and stuff like that. With this production, Squeaks, I'm going to lean on to you this because I think you're kind of anti this idea, but they're very open about the filming. What do you think about watching filming in progress for a movie like this?
Yeah, it's a little worrisome. And my worrisome, if just my opinion, goes to how much that they put out of characters that I was not expecting to be in this movie. And I know we talked about it before with Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner's as a Green Lantern. And it's almost like, let me be surprised. I'm almost to the point where I believe I'm with Kevin Feige when he put out, I think, a statement of only having one trailer for a movie. Shoot, you could almost have no trailers. And as long as I kind of, to things that we know about. So I don't want to say like not at all. But if we're like familiar, like let's just say, we're going to branch into Deadpool and Wolverine. We're locked in. I don't need to see anything. I'm going to see it, So this Superman, 100%, I'm going to see it no matter what. I wish I'm not getting so much content shoved at me because I would have liked that wow factor like we saw in Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, if a Guy Gardner came on the screen, being a Green Lantern person myself, I would have been definitely shocked. But the worrisome part, though, also goes along with the costume outfits. They didn't look very good to me. And it is concerning, but Superman looked great. So I don't really know. That's the thing, right?
No post effects. So you'd presume with Guy Gardner, there'd be some like green lighting and something like that going on. But you see none of that on there. And so it looks rough and people will start getting that negative opinion right away when it's completely not warranted. So I'm hoping it doesn't influence the audience beforehand. They're very open about it. They're filming in the streets.
Yeah, and that bowl cut, man.
That was my thing. When I saw that Nathan Fillion, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, he's come a long way from Castle." He used to be suave in that one, Now he's rocking that straight fringe straight across the eyebrows. Yeah, crazy.
I was like, man,
it
that's
looks
all
rough. Yeah. But in the comic books, it looks rough, though, right? He has that bowl cut in the comics.
Yes, but later on, he has this like a shaved sides with a little like flat top, if I remember right. Something like that. Yeah,
I'm imagining that cover too, actually, with that actually, yeah.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I wish I just want the wow factor still, kind of like with Deadpool Wolverine, like I said. So I don't know. Hopefully there's still some of that there, though.
One of my biggest complaints, I mean, Deadpool Wolverine I thought was phenomenal, but the complaint I had for you was I wish they hid X-23 until the very end because The fact that they threw in a trailer was like, that was probably one of the more exciting surprises, being a Logan fan, is for her to walk down there. And it's like, oh, it's too bad that one got ruined, because my reaction to Blade was insane. You know, so
Yep.
I heard that they did that because Daphne Keane wanted to go to the premiere.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that why they did that?
I heard that too. I mean, it makes sense, but come on, Daphne, couldn't you just like wear a mask or something?
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think it tarnishes like your excitement of a movie, or I don't know.
I think in normal cases, I think hide it because there's no reason for us to see it. But in this case, because it's defining a new era of DC, it's good to be as transparent as possible with like, hey, we're in Cleveland. This is Americana looking movie, which is, you know, nostalgia of the 70s Superman. It looks back at those. And so I think the idea that they're showing us this from the outset of like, hey, there's Lex Luthor just walking around on the actual street. I think it comforts the fans that are worried about this new era of DC being like, we're amplifying practical effects. We talked about this on the Lost episode of Challenge Accepted, apparently. That's a shame. But yeah, so I think they're just going to show that like, hey, we're putting practical effects first, something that you are unfamiliar with from the last Zack Snyder verse when it was so CGI heavy and so dark. This is out again in the streets. You can't darken that very well. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's a good idea. You don't want to have people go into this thing thinking that they're just going to get the same DC that was before.
Yeah,
because there might be the casual person that just doesn't know that this is the start of something fresh for them. You know, they might just think it's tied into the rest. So I get it.
With the James Gunn stuff and them being, you know, pretty open and about it in the streets and things like that. When the DC had their panel at Comic-Con, they didn't reveal too much, did they, in terms of what they've got going on? Like James Gunn made an appearance and he had the logo there, and then he talked about Creature Commandos. But other than that, because they've been kind of open in the streets filming like Superman now, like what are your thoughts on that? Like what's the go with their Comic-Con panel when they did that with DC?
Yeah. I was going to say what panel? The presence there, right? Yeah. Gosh, dang.
Exactly.
Yeah, what do you think, Squeaks?
I don't know, Frank. I don't know.
You're still depressed.
I think I'm just, I literally was just going to say, I'm more upset that I thought this year would have been something from DC to get me like really rooting for them. Frank kind of made me feel a little better that hopefully the next one will be it. Like James Gunn out there and
once his new universe has started,
that's
it's hard because we've all been hurt by DC before, haven't we? Like here, there, or everywhere in one way or another. We've all been. It's like, you know, going back to that ex-girlfriend that hurt you so bad. The stories are really good, so you keep coming back.
When it comes to these big events, though, I look back at some of my favorites. I look at E3 and I look at BlizzCon. And Squeaks, you're familiar with BlizzCon. There are the years of BlizzCon that you're like, oh, this is one of those years, and years that are okay. And the years that are like, oh, this is one of the years is new expansion reveals, right? And I think that's what they're setting up. E3, all E3s are good, but the ones where they're announcing new consoles, those are the best ones. And I'm thinking that they're like, let's not share tidbits of DC. Let's wait till next year when we could rock it off and actually outshine a Avengers trailer Marvel. Think of how epic next year's is going to be. They're setting themselves up to compete and possibly beat Marvel. And if they were to just show, if they were to have the cast walk out on stage like, hey, we've been filming this whole time, see you guys later, that wouldn't have been enough. They need to show footage. They need to show an unknown villain walk out. It's got to be big like that. And I'm kind of excited for that. And if it was anybody else, I don't know if I'd be hyped, but James Gunn, he nails it every time.
Yeah, he really does. What would be that one villain that you want teased for a couple movies like Thanos was?
Brainiac. I want to see, I know Brainiac's kind of teased, but I want to see who's playing Brainiac, how are they going to be portrayed? Because Brainiac is such a tricky entity. Give us a visual of what those ships would look like, because Brainiac ships coming in to orbit is always super cool. Reminds me of Independence Day. That's what I would want to see. What about you?
Darkseid. Oh my God. Give me baby.
Too early, man. Too early for Darkseid.
I want it.
You can't get Thanos against Iron Man, buddy.
I never got it proper from the Snyderverse. So like,
because it didn't deserve
it. I know, damn it.
What about you, Aaron? What DC villain do you want to be surprised by?
Mine's definitely Steppenwolf. Not joking.
I was gonna say, hold on.
You're like, come on, man. No, mine's the same. Mine's Darkseid as well. I want to see him on the big screen. Just he has the best sort of energy with obviously the Justice League, but as well as Superman as well. It's just, mighty being versus mighty being. You can't really beat it. And just the build up, if they can build him correctly, I think it'll be really good. So you need to do that from the beginning, because even Thanos at the start, he wasn't in the whole movie, but then he had that end credit scene. And that's kind of what I want to see for a dark side.
Man. Yeah. Give me like a dark side on the throne that looks back at you. Ooh, with red eyes going.
Just give us a little bit, just a little bit. No?
Yeah, maybe we'll just like randomly see like a laser go across. We think it's Superman's laser, but then like jets off in one direction.
Yeah.
We know that doesn't fit.
That's not a good laser.
Man.
That'd be hot.
Moving over to Deadpool and Wolverine, fun little side story, guys. One of the best songs of the 90s is now in the top 20. That is Bye 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 by NSYNC. Squeaks, I know you're happy about this, man. Look at you up there.
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I wasn't listening to any NSYNC. But
I know you are.
I'm gonna have to do a correction. It came out in 2000, but whatever. It's not like I'm a fanboy or anything.
But
no, it was. And like I said in our like Deadpool Wolverine talk, if I had one of my favorite boy bands growing up with killing the TVA agents, I'm all gun for it, because I love one and I hate the other one, and I like the fact that we're just killing the agents. So.
Yeah.
And the scene that coupled with it was just iconic. The dance moves from Dancepool as well. The choreographer for that, he deserves all the credit. That was just absolutely amazing. And then like to the point of, Bye Bye Bye. I played it in my I'm one of the streamers. I did that too, It's just back. It's good. And NSYNC, even I think you guys notice it well, but on Spotify, if you type in Bye Bye Bye, they've actually put Bye 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 from Deadpool and Wolverine, the motion sound. Like they've really leaned into this promo. They're just like, we are piggybacking off the popularity of this. We're back. We're coming. We're coming. Yeah. So I like it. The world tour is back on, so to speak.
Yeah. I didn't even notice they were at the premiere. And now that's like, I went to the movie and saw it. Yeah. NSYNC was at the premiere, fully decked out and stuff like that. So it's cool that they're embracing the whole movie and stuff like that. It's a blast. It's a lot of fun. And it's one of the few things where my TikTok discussing it hasn't been full of negative jerk comments, which is always nice. It's just a bunch of other people like, I love that song, or I hope they do, Backstreet Boys next time. And it's like, oh, good comments. That's fun. You don't see those very often.
Yeah.
Sean Levy has a history of bringing back old songs too in his stuff, because he did the Running Up That Hill for Stranger Things.
I literally was just going to reference that. Oh, man. Yeah.
No, he's a king at it. So he just thinks, this will be the scene. He's pictured it in that head. Wouldn't it be a great soundtrack to pair it with this? And that's an art form, pairing the visuals with the music to awesome effect. And he did that a few times in Deadpool and Wolverine, I will say. Like the Bye 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 is good, but there's also like, he did the Goo Goo Dolls as well. And Huey Lewis, that one was awesome. Like Huey Lewis, the Back to the Future theme, and the Wolverines were jumping around. That was good. I love that.
I've watched the clip of Wolverine putting on his helmet a few times, and the timing of that music is so good, because you're going in with the pop music, then it slows down to like this like almost Thor, like when they did the Thor trailers, they did a lot of that like heavy electronic bass drum sound. They kind of put that in as he's putting it down, and then it kicks back in after they start fighting, and it was the audio design on that so clean. It was seamless. Yeah,
but even the lyrics on that song, as soon as he pulled the helm down, Madonna sings, it feels like like, and then he puts it on, and then there's that pause, and then broken by the fourth wall. Deadpool is just like, holy shit, that's that was just great. Just cinematography just did so well. It was awesome.
Squeaks, we need to have a date night, and you and me go watch it again. I think that's a good move.
Oh yeah,
I'll treat you to some Applebee's, man.
Yeah, and then come to the door, pick me up, open the door for me.
I'll get a limo for us.
With flowers. Oh, limo. Heck yeah, get it done. Get it done.
Hey, you're really trying to get my pants.
Yeah. Play Bye 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 all the way there. It'll be great. Dancing in the backseat.
All right, let's move over to Star Wars Skeleton Crew. We've been told that this is going to be a kids-oriented Star Wars, and now we have People Magazine dropping their first looks at a lot of these images. And right away, I'm getting Goonies vibes. And I think that's, I like the idea of just being a kid Star Wars. I don't have to have any stakes in this. I'll probably enjoy it. I'll watch it for sure. But if it's not something enjoyable to me, that's fine. It's not meant for me. That's okay.
I think it's really good that Star Wars is kind of going back to portraying their stuff to families, for one, because I know that there are a lot of, I grew up watching Star Wars with my parents when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. So and I know that some of the stuff that have been coming out recently, like the Acolyte, and even like some of the movies lately, they're a little bit sort of grown up for the kids. So I'm looking forward to this one because it might be something that you can sit down, watch with your family, watch with your kids, and just sort of enjoy Star Wars as I enjoyed Star Wars when I grew up. You know, there's a fun little cast of characters, 4 of them all together. It looks like Jude Law's the big pupper of the lot of them, and there's some. They just look like they're going to go down a fun sort of treasure hunting route, which is nice, a little bit lighthearted, which is maybe what Star Wars needs right now. You know, a break from the usual. I just really, really hope, because as we talked about before in the intro, the Star Wars fandom can be up and it can be down. I really hope they give these kids a little bit of a break, you know? That's my hope.
Great point. Yeah, and I hope people go in with that understanding that this is for kids or a younger audience at least, and to not just assume that it's going to be for you. And I think that's one of the biggest downfalls is people see, like, The Acolyte's a really good example. Was The Acolyte good? It wasn't as good as I was hoping for, of course, but people were right off the bat disliking it. It's like, you haven't even seen a lightsaber swing yet. And that's one thing, for example, that it did great with. The duels in Acolyte are the best I've seen in years for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just like, damn, like Anakin, you missed a couple kids. I don't want to see this shit, you know? So
that's good.
No, visually, no, it looks great. I like that little like blue alien
with the hair.
Looks clear. Yeah. No, I think I don't want to say I'm excited for like anything like this or anything upcoming Star Wars, but this one has me at least a little bit interested in getting a different feel. Like when I think you said it best with this whole Goonies vibe to it. I wouldn't mind taking a break, like what Aaron said. Yeah, from this specific, I don't know, goal that there's reaching with this like line of storytelling. You know,
like Dave Filoni verse, kind of taking a break from that a little bit.
Like a palate cleanser. Cleanse the palate. Give us something different and new.
Yeah.
You're both the dads. Do you think this is going to be the entry point for your kids into Star Wars?
I honestly think my girls are already into it because they know I like it. So we went to a trip to San Diego and they were all excited to tell me about these people that dressed up in Star Wars characters that went to visit them. They were like in this different spotlight classroom type thing. First thing they did when they saw me was like, "Oh, we saw Star Wars. We saw Star Wars," you know. So I think my girls will be willing to catch the eye. They'll get their attention with the alien, right? But with
that'll be the plushie.
And then these other girls that are in Star Wars, and they could kind of like have this little resemblance, you know. So I think so.
Yeah, no, my little guy's 3 at the moment, so he's sort of starting his journey in the Lego space. So he's got a couple of books of it, and Star Wars to him is just Lego and what Daddy watches on the TV. You know, I've shown him like I was watching The Bad Batch and he was watching a little bit of that too, you know, but I don't show him the heavy stuff, obviously. But so I probably won't show him the Skeleton Crew just yet. Might be something that we watch when he's a little bit older. But he's just flipping through his Lego books at the moment, seeing all the minifigs and just making up songs about Boba Fett. So I'm like, keep it coming, buddy. You're walking down the right path. So so that I think for me, a little bit later,
There's that TikTok trend where they put down a blue and a red lightsaber and let the kid choose which side they're going to go on. And I imagine Squeaks, dude, like every time the dad cheers if the kid goes fellow Jedi, like that's not Squeaks. He's going to be like kind of pushing that Sith lightsaber closer and closer.
Get the red.
So I kind of got it with the Star Wars Oreos. So I told my girls we always want to pull red, like I want red. So we've been pulling reds like crazy and they get all excited. When they get blue, they're just like, nah. Okay, but when they get red, they let me know.
I'll eat them, you know. I guess they're Oreos.
Oh, that's great.
We don't get those down here in Australia. So that sucks.
What the fuck?
I've been seeing everybody go through them, and I'm just like, I just want a pack. of Star Wars Oreos.
Do you have any Oreo in Australia? That's unique.
Yeah, we do.
But unique though. What's different? Is there like a different one over there? Or
we have like a double stuffed. We have like a caramel one.
Oh, okay.
There's a pink one as well. I don't know.
Okay.
But I just always get the double stuffed.
Yeah.
But if there was Star Wars, I'd get the Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Is there any difference between the flavor, blue and red, or is it just color?
No, it's just color. Yeah.
No, there is actually like Pop Rocks in them. Did you notice that?
Oh, there is that. Yeah, there's that. Just flavor's the same, but that. I just personally think the red always tastes better though. You know.
Of course you do. They seem like more sugary.
Mind, you know?
I don't know. I think it's just because as we're adults and we're like, oh, I don't need, or whatever. It's like, oh, this is terrible, different. So maybe I'm noticing it, but they're like, man, this is a lot of sugar in these damn things. But yeah, I'll see if we still have them around here. If we do, then one of them's heading their way to Australia.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. I'll have to savor each one.
There you go.
I'll make a reel on Instagram of me eating each one, thanking you every time.
You know that it's gonna go well. It's all about reels nowadays. Yeah, that's totally that's totally a podcast or discussion right there. Let's talk about Xbox. Xbox 360. I would say probably the best system ever, and they are closing down the marketplace for that. So you're no longer able to buy digital copies of Xbox games. You still have access to the ones you already bought, and you can of course still buy physical if you can find them, but no more digital copies. Let's talk about some of our favorite games from the 360 first of all, as we say farewell to that marketplace.
I still remember the first time I fired up an Xbox 360. It was my second Xbox console. I did have the original, but I was sitting in my mate's house and we put on this game, Gears of War, and it was just this awesome cover-based fighter. Just the game. And then it was this cover-based fighter. You popped out, you shot things, you had that ripping chainsaw, the enemies seemed real. And on top of that, like we were listening to heavy metal in the background too. So it was just it was a perfect atmosphere, and it's like core memory unlocked in my head. That was my first experience with an Xbox 360. And then from there I went home, like saved up my cash, bought my own, and then the rest is just I had a massive library of games, and it's just Gears of War has always been very special in my heart because of that. Like I got number 2 and smashed number 2, and then number 3, like with Don Santiago's like demise at the end of it, and then number 2 where he found his like just the storytelling in that game was so great. So it was definitely one of the games that I geeked out over to start with, Gears of War, and it all came from the 360. So to hear about the marketplace shutting down and all that, it's like the end of an era, you know. It's a sad sort of time. Yeah,
it's a good time to reflect on games though. For me, like Oblivion and Call of Duty 2 were the 2 games that I bought with launch, and Oblivion was like the first time we were like, this story is so good that it's better than anything I'm watching movie or TV wise. And it was the first game where I bought expansions for, and the expansions were incredible, where you actually became a god by accident and essentially, and it was so well done. And then Call of Duty would spend, I mean, no joke, an hour on the single multiplayer map where everybody's sniping each other, so nobody made a move. And as soon as somebody sneezed, you just heard the ring of fire everywhere, and just that guy was gone. Dedication to such a great game. It was a hell of a console. Squeaks, any highlights for you? I know you were a Gears fan as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got a bunch of Gears merchandise right behind me. I would say my game is when I think of a 360 is going to be Fable 2. And only because I was talking so much garbage on the Fable series that I wouldn't give it a shot. But then it was Joey, RIP to him on this podcast. But he talked me into it, and I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck was I even thinking? This game is phenomenal. And I just like the way that if I remember me personally, it was probably one of my first games ever where you were playing those games where your choices matter. And of course, with that one, the more, evil things you do, and your image will change and compared to how many good things you're doing. So I think honestly, it gets me really pumped up to hear about these talks about Fable 3. So,
not even Fable 3. Fable 3 is already out. They already made Fable 3 a long time ago.
Fable 4. Okay,
they're rebooting the entire franchise.
Fable,
yeah.
Okay, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, I loved Fable 2 as well. Just the way that your character would change to the minutest little things. Like I would always do something, like make a choice in Fable, and then I'd look at my character's face and I'd be like, why are my eyes black now? What did I do wrong? Or you go like, oh, I've got that scar now from when I got hit by the guards. And just, that changed. That was just new for its time, wasn't it? It was one of the first times that came out. It was really good. I think it'd be remiss of us not to mention, obviously, Halo 3 when we're talking about Xbox 360. Like, I think we've all had those, like, you guys would have done LAN parties and things like that before the advent of, Wi-Fi gaming. That's just also absolute core memory, Hearing someone scream from the opposite side of the room because you've just got them on, like, Beaver Creek is just, all locked down with shotguns and swords. It's just so much, like, vibe and energy from Halo. It's just so good. Yeah. I loved it. That's probably to date my favorite console of all time. Yeah,
it is mine too. The longevity, the quality of it. There are a couple games that I still play off and on today that were launched on that one. Grand Theft Auto 5, Skyrim, both launched on that system amazingly.
Yeah, crazy.
And some of those Assassin's Creed still hold up very well. I had the attachment that made it Wi-Fi connected and the removable hard drives. It was a hell of a good system.
The only bad thing about it, did you guys ever experience the Red Ring of Death in the early iterations? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I learned not to put my console on a tower. Like I used to sit it on the mantle, sit it on a. It's like that ain't happening no more. But as the systems got more developed, that was something that was ironed out. But yeah, just a really great sort of episode of our gaming lives. That just
I used to work at Toys R Us doing their video game stuff, and I 1-800-4Xbox would call them all the time. Oh, I had this. I just bought an Xbox and it doesn't work. Yeah, all right. I mean, Red Rings of Death. What's your address? Okay, yeah. I mean, you got so good at it because it was such a problem, but they were really good about the replacements. I got to give them at least that. And then there were the few people that were like, I need my Xbox to get the Rings of Death so I can replace it because the tray stopped working or something like that. I was like, well, then you wrap it in a towel and that'll do it.
Yeah. You didn't hear it from me, but
yeah.
Oh, man.
What a badass. Speaking of gaming icons,
secret there.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of gaming icons, we have the Game Informer. It's shutting down after 33 years. This is a magazine that used to come out and have video game news, reviews, and all kinds of stuff. Personally, for me, who's somebody who was probably later to the internet than some of you kids that lived in town, Game Informer was my first exposure to video game news. And so it was the first time I saw somebody take it seriously, video games seriously, and actually give them some proper journalism. And then I used to love the one paragraph reviews at the end. And that's how you found indie games, because at the time there was no way to find indie games. So they used to actually buy ad space on TV to advertise new Halo games or something like that. They don't do that anymore, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. But I guess time changes and technology changes and whatnot. But I think this is an instant where technology, it fucked itself. Okay. So Game Informer, I love going to a GameStop and getting that paper magazine, and I can look through all the pages. What they did after so long, they went to this sending it to you by email. So that caused problems for myself with login issues. I think it was something weird with the GameStop login with the Game Informer. Maybe it was just me thing. Maybe I'm the handicap one, but it really just killed the vibe of just get that physical magazine and just reading that when you're taking a shit or something, But,
toilet reading. That's exactly right. I love a good magazine on the toilet.
But but it's something just like that add-on. You put it in the bag when you go to the store, and it's man, I'd love to look into this, and it engaged more of reading of what's the issues covered. So if you got Mario, then of course you're gonna read about the new upcoming Mario or something. But once you went digital with it, I just didn't really have an interest in it anymore. The whole downloading, flipping pages, it's a little on a smaller screen compared to the magazine itself. I think this is one instance where they shot themselves in the foot going that route.
Well, it's hard because GameStop owned it and they were already struggling on their own. So when you give them a print publication, they're gonna probably ditch it as well.
Stock just went down to $2.
One of the things I remember from Game Informer that it got me to buy the game, that and of course the trailer was perfect, was Devil May Cry, the first one. They had a whole story about Devil May Cry, and it was this whole thing where it was Eastern inspired. Yeah, exactly. And then of course they showed you images, but then you saw the trailer of him just kind of with his legs up, and then he had the gun ready to go. It was incredible. And I remember very well that cover, what that looked like with him on the front and the DMC logo and stuff with the Devil May Cry logo. That was definitely a game I purchased because of Game Informer.
Yeah, and that's where I would have to say, arguably, PS2 was better than 360. I'm saying it.
You took a while to say that, Squeaks.
Because didn't you? You think when I think of Devil May Cry, I think of the one time. There's two games I bought before I even owned a system, and they were both for the PS2, and one of them being Devil May Cry, because I knew my parents were going to buy me that fucking PS2 for Christmas. So, and if they didn't, they knew I'd be pissed. Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually one of our clips on YouTube, is you saying that. I remember that. Oh man.
Imagine being pissed off. Yeah.
They used to have walkthroughs in there as well, and sometimes they'd have cheats. And I remember back when I was a kid, this was probably before Game Informer, and I'm not super proud of this, but I'm gonna tell the story because I think it might be relatable. Going into the grocery store, they used to have the magazine rack, and I needed the cheat codes to some game.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I don't need the whole magazine. I need the cheat codes to that game. And so I took the magazine and just like I was 007, that might have been the game too, and just rip, fold it up inside of the magazine and just like let the magazine go. And I walked out of there, thought I was like, oh man, I'm slick as shit, man. That was so cool.
Fucking theme song in your head.
Yeah.
You're just imagining like explosions behind you.
As you walk out. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Golden Knight theme song playing behind, like that pause music. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah,
it's one of those things that you're so proud about your caper, you tell your mom about it. Like, Mom, I just stole this and got away with it. Like, no, you didn't. You're telling me. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now march your way back there and tell them what you did. No, yeah. Oh, bro. Goodness me, Frank.
End of an era and
nice.
My criminal past.
So yeah. It's been exposed. It's an expose here on Geek Freaks today.
They're gonna come and get me. That grocery store went out of business, and we know why. They didn't sell that one magazine. That's a damn shame.
Yeah, it was your fault.
Yeah. Another kind of gaming, and one that's basically taking over my life right now as I prep for our D&D session. They're making all kinds of changes to D&D. They're getting ready for, because 2014 was when 5e came out. And so we're getting this, I think they're calling it 1 D&D, bunch of updated rules. Now, let's go over to Aaron here. Aaron, you have a D&D podcast. You're a big D&D player. You know more than me on this for sure. Have you had a chance to look over much of these rules?
Yeah, I've had a little bit of a look at some of them. I know that the opinions on the rules so far has been pretty contentious, but D&D has always been a space where it takes community voice very, very seriously, to the point where they've unleashed like Unearthed Arcana, if you guys know that. It's basically playtest material that they send out. And then eventually that playtest material, that Unearthed Arcana, becomes actual rules for the game. So they're very like proactive in terms of putting out a product that the people will like and then publishing that as a set of rules. That being said as well, there are always people that will revert to the old edition if they don't want to go to the new one. And there are always people that will look at the rules and use them in the, as we call it, our table, the Hector Barbosa sort of effect from Pirates of the Caribbean, where they're more like guidelines.
Yeah.
But I think the overall sort of message that we're getting here is that D&D as a company is sort of taking community voice into their ears and producing a product that can be used for like everybody at the table to advance everybody's game. So I know some of the changes that have come out have been like really good for some of the classes. I saw a post from Sly Flourish, who's a big person in the D&D space. He said that, you know, there are a lot of things that he really enjoyed about it, but a lot of the things that he doesn't is that it makes the initial stages of the game and character creation a little bit more clunky because there's just more options. So for new players, it might be a little bit hard. For older players who are looking for that little bit of variety in creating their characters, it's probably a welcomed breath of fresh air, just because, you know, if you're playing something like a fighter, there's only a limited amount of things that you can do on your turn. Whereas this new rule set, it really broadens out those melee classes, especially by introducing a few of the different rule sets, which I'm sure we'll sort of get into as we talk about this. But yeah, my initial thoughts is that it's a good thing that the D&D space is growing and it's considering community voice. Still a little bit of work to go before it's sort of
absolutely
perfect, you might say. Yeah.
And they had, I think it's called Roll20, the convention that's going on right now for it. And so we're getting our first books, actually physical books in hand right now. People are showing some of the gorgeous artwork in there. A lot of what I've been seeing is sort of making it a little more approachable in a way to where, like, a great example here is the feat table, like your origin table, right? Like, oh, I'm a soldier. Okay, what does that mean? Well, you get this. It's kind of interesting. But now it's like you get plus 2 strength, plus 1 constitution, very easy adjustments. You know, it's, to me, that's a lot more approachable, especially as somebody who helps other people build their characters. It's easier to just say like, you're adding 2 numbers of this and 1 number to that than it is like, well, imagine this, you know. I think that's very helpful.
100%. And I like that the origins, because usually what I tell people is when they're making their characters, you go through your ABC, which is your abilities, your background, and then your class, or your ancestry, background, and your class. So I really like that background and origin has been given its day in the sun, because beforehand in the 5e system, you'd get like a language and a tool set and you'd use them or you wouldn't. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah. But whereas your origin, if you're an actual character in a storybook, your origin really makes up who you are as a character. So the fact that they've gone through and they've given like your origin and your ancestry different sort of feats that you can play off, different sort of like different sort of ability scores, it really lets you sort of bounce off and have a stage where you can begin your role play but also where you can sort of see where your character's going as well. And it also mechanically, because there are two different sorts of players for Dungeons and Dragons, mechanically you can either role play it really well from that, or you could do more tactically on the battlefield, which is both of the elements of D&D that make people love it so much. So, yeah, I like that new system in terms of the character backgrounds. I think it's good.
Yeah, it gives more weight to that your backstory. And again, when you're leaning into the role playing, for example, one of the campaigns where I'm actually a player, I'm a cleric. I make my decisions based off my background because that's just how I want to role play. But I know so many people that are like, nah, that doesn't benefit me stat wise. It's like, yeah, but you're not playing a video game where you have to like, game loop it to so much efficiency.
Min-max is the term.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't need to min-max it. We're having fun. You're with your friends and we're all half drunk. So just chill and have fun. You don't need to run the numbers on it.
One of my favorite upgrades that they've done is the weapon mastery differences. So if you look at how weapon mastery was done before, you would be proficient in like different sorts of weapons, whether it be martial or simple, and that would be that. But if you were a fighter and you were proficient in martial weapons and you had a longsword, you use that exactly the same as another fighter that was proficient in martial weapons and used a longsword. But now with the weapon mastery, each type of weapon gives you a different feat as well. So if you're using like a halberd or a sword, you get an actual feat that belongs to that weapon because you are so good at it. And that just also broadens what you can do as a player. When you're playing like a mundane, I'll say mundane, but they're very versatile, a mundane class like a fighter or a monk or something like that, where you can actually do some stuff where your wizard companions are like flying fireballs and doing all this fancy stuff and teleporting you this way and that way. And you're just like, I'll hit him with my sword. No, it's not like that anymore. It's really good. So I like that change too.
I know for our personal game that I'm DMing, one of the biggest changes that I've been texting Jonathan a lot about this is the nice little simple change of wild shape, the ability to turn into an animal.
The moon druid, wild shape.
First off, it goes for everything, not the subclasses anymore. Now it's just a druid thing, and it's a bonus action.
Yep.
So it's like, oh my god, that kind of makes so much sense because, and their explanation of it is like, it's funner, and it's like, yes, exactly. And so something that we were kind of homebrewing anyways, a little bit, now we're just like, okay, it's in the rules, so we're good.
Yeah. And they've done that heaps where they've sort of taken what rule of thumb most players and most tables have sort of gone to, and they've just put that in the book as just like, this is what we should do for everybody because it's obviously working for so many people. Another example of that is like rules as written says that a potion is an action to take. But now they've changed that to be a bonus action because so many people were bonus actioning it. But I like that they're giving players different sort of tactical ways to explore their creative character. That's the best part about this new sort of D&D model. And, when you first get the book, I've heard that it is like a monster. It's pretty thick. Yeah. So, and that can be daunting for some people, but also, again, I read from Sly Flourish, he said, it looks big, but it's very workable. There's different sort of contents items. And if you're looking for a particular thing, that it's very easy to find everything that you want in there. Character creation, although it is more complicated now, it does step you through it quite easily. Whereas in the other player's handbook in the 5th edition, you kind of had to know that you needed to go, okay, I need to do my class. I need to do my ancestry. And sometimes things would go missing. And then a few sessions later, you'd be like, oh, wait, I've actually had this the whole time. So it's a lot more sort of stepped out in that regard. And the new character sheet that they've put out for this one is also so much better, I feel, as well. Just the way that they've organized it. Great. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll send you
a
picture. I'll put it on the thing. Yeah. No,
Please
it's good.
Do.
I like it.
Yeah, it'd be great. Squeaks, as our young paladin at our table, one of the things I'm introducing for our next session on the 20th, 4th, or whatever it is, we're going to start using more physical props because I think it's just going to be more fun immersion. And not only are you guys actually going to have gold coins and you're actually going to be trading in gold, you're actually going to have mana pots as well. So when you want to use mana, you will have a glass with a cork. It's mana pot. My question for you, while I have you on mic, is it something you want to just turn into me, or do you want me to put like some vodka in these things and you actually have to drink it?
Oh yeah, give me that vodka, man.
Okay.
Yeah. Come on now.
You can role play that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna do food coloring too.
Big sacrifice for this move.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're gonna be perfect.
They're gonna be red, but it'll be vodka or rum. Probably rum's a little softer. But yeah. So if you guys want to, all right, you can heal, but you've got to heal twice. You're gonna drive home.
I like that.
Okay.
It might do something to your wisdom if you heal too much.
That's right. That's delightful.
Wow.
I like that. That's good. All right, so there's so much to discuss with the new D&D things. What we're going to be doing over on the website, guys, gfpods.com, geekfreakspodcast.com. is I'm going to be breaking down all the changes by class and the changes to race, because there's a general change for race too and stuff with orcs and whatnot. So check that out, guys. They're going to be trickling out over time as I compile all that information. There's a ton of it. Right now, there's kind of a summary one that's up right now on our site. Check that out. All right, we got so much we're going through, guys, tonight. Let's head over to Batman Cape Crusader. Squeeze, you haven't watched any of it. What's your first opinion of it, Aaron?
I think the first few scenes that I watched of it, very reminiscent of the original animated series, which I absolutely love. Yeah. And then they played that intro, which was awesome in itself as well. Mm-hmm. You know, the Batman intro has just always been iconic. But I just love that they've taken that style and sort of ran with it for this series. That was my initial impression from first looking at it. And also, just like, as I said to you guys before, you know, I love Western sort of cartoons in that sort of regard. And it just takes me back to when I watched that for the first time. And the art style is very similar. It's just the character look is very similar. Yeah. And I love that it's taken us back to that sort of 1930s Batman. Everybody's wearing like Dick Tracy trench coats and hats, and they've pulled out their little pistols from the side pocket. It's just very, it's the Batman that I kind of fell in love with. And it's the Batman that I really, really enjoy. So it's good to be back with the Caped Crusader. So yeah. What about you, Frank?
Completely agree. Yeah, this was the Batman that got me interested in Batman. And it's very much Bruce Timm's Batman, but elevated. The stories are far more adult in their complexity. And even the villains, I'm going to go through some of the changes here in a little bit. So I'm kind of giving you guys some time for spoilers, because these aren't big spoilers, but I'm just saying. But it is a noir, and there are episodes where there actually isn't much Batman, but there's a lot of Gotham PD trying to break the case. There's a lot of Barbara Gordon, who's a prosecutor, who's doing her thing. And so it's a lot more like, for example, Harvey Dent, he plays throughout the entire season, and you're watching that character change over time. It's not just that episode, albeit there are definitely one-shot stories going on, but you're watching Harvey in the background suddenly have to start working with the mob. It's like, okay, somebody's making deals they shouldn't be making.
Okay, so he's not above it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I like it, yeah.
So it's really good with that. Some of the changes that I liked a lot was the fact that like Harley Quinn is now a psychiatrist bad guy, because my favorite part about Harley Quinn, the original one, is that she was influenced by Joker because she was his doctor. And in this one, she is a psychiatrist and kind of using that as her tool for villainy. And she's kind of actually attacking the uber wealthy for being uber wealthy and using them for her own means. She's breaking them down. She's literally torturing them. Great character change. As much as I love the regular Harley Quinn, this one having no attachment to Joker at all from the get-go, which is key, I think is a really good choice. Have you guys seen the art on Harley Quinn now?
This her as well.
Yeah,
she actually looks like a Harlequin.
She does.
It's really good. And yeah, they've taken away the bright sort of colors of her too, haven't they? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. And she looks more sort of clown-like too, like porcelain.
Porcelain is exactly. She's almost haunting when she's in the room. And the character is actually a friend of Barbara's, which impacts her decisions, which is a much more complicated situation than you normally expect out of Harley Quinn. So very cool. There is... all the characters are far better. The GCPD is far more important. The Batman is a lot more real. For example, there's one part where he attacks the car and he's like punching on top of the car. Two-Face spins the car, or whoever, no, that's a spoiler. Two-Face spins the car and throws him off the top of the car, and he hits the side of a car. Normally, our Batman would get up, grapple, and go. He got knocked out. He was knocked out. So this is a normal dude with a bat suit on, and that feels good. The stakes are far higher. Yeah. One of my favorite episodes that actually is the worst rated episode is one that starts like a Scooby-Doo episode. You're like, oh, there's a ghost haunting people. There's a Scooby-Doo thing. By the end, it's a ghost that you keep waiting for them to. Yeah, I know, right? Squeaks, I know. You keep waiting for them to do it's Old Man Jenkins. No, it's a ghost. Yeah. He has to work with Constantine's friend. I can't remember his name.
Okay, that's cool then.
He has to work with Constantine's friend to take him out. And it's freaking awesome. Cool. And it's like, oh man, that's really cool that they're going for it. It just feels really good, guys. And you got to watch it. The stories are fantastic. I don't think it's so, you don't have to pay close attention to it, but it is actually a detective story where you're breaking down the case. It has surprised me with the decisions that it's made. The more we pay attention to it, the better. There are some cameos. There's one part where they're working with 4 orphans who happen to be named Dickie, Jace, short for Jason, Carrie, and Steph, which are 4 Robins. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. There's 4 orphans named that will running around. So yeah, check that out, guys. It is Two-Face's story is one of my favorite things about Two-Face. When he becomes Two-Face, Harvey didn't go away. He's still there fighting Two-Face. And that's an aspect of Two-Face we do not see very often. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's like the Gollum Smeagol effect. I like that.
Exactly that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like this sort of take on Batman too, because all of the best Batman graphic novels really dive into his detective origins as opposed to his superhero origins. So like The Long Halloween, if you've read that, or The Longest Night, both of those absolutely amazing. Art style's perfect. Jeff Loeb, excellent Batman writer. Like that sort of Calendar Man, all the gallery of his villains present, but you never get overwhelmed in a story like that because it's a living, breathing sort of city environment. They give each character a time to shine, and Batman's just sort of wading through the clues bit by bit, and you're along the ride with him. So I think it's good that they've emulated the comic book in that regard in this picture, because it's just, it's great stuff. I like it.
It's a really good series, guys. And it's extremely short, 10 episodes, 30 minutes each. It's a delight to watch. You guys should check that out.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
Aaron, you're the host of Fandom Portals coming out this week. I'm so excited for this podcast. What are some of the things you've learned so far just starting the show?
So I have definitely learned about different fandoms that I wasn't a part of before, but I've also learned that there are so many people out there that are willing and also extremely like knowledgeable about the fandoms that they love. A lot of people that do like podcasting obviously talk to lots of different people and it builds their knowledge, but the people that just immerse themselves in these fandoms all the time, they love to talk about it, but they also know so much. And there are some things that like, I think that I'm a pretty good advocate for like X-Men stories and things like that, but you'll always meet somebody that knows just a little bit more, that's gone on a different journey to you, and just combining those stories and being social while you're talking about the things that you love is just awesome. So that's the biggest sort of takeaway that I've gotten from Fandom Portals so far, is just talking to different people. And even when I'm not interviewing somebody for an episode and I'm doing a solo episode, I'm doing a solo episode based on like a community suggestion or a poll that we created, which gives me very surprising results. And I try to look into how the fandom sort of thinks in that regard. It's a nice sort of exploration and a really great place for me to put my creativity and all of the rambling thoughts that I have around my brain, because as you said earlier, I had been doing a Dungeons and Dragons podcast, which is awesome, but I had so much more interest that I wanted to sort of broadcast. And this is a great creative outlet for me, but it's also keeping me connected too. So it's been a big learning experience. It's good.
Squeaks, what fandom would you suggest that Aaron should explore more into?
Man, can I go way off the wall? Okay.
Hell yeah, you can. If it's bad, I'll just edit it out.
I want 90s cartoons. Okay.
Oh, that's not way off the wall. That's awesome.
Okay, because I didn't want just like, Lord of the Rings or whatever. I'm gonna give you something massive. Okay. Yeah. No,
90s cartoons is awesome. Like the old sort of, it's a bit later than that, but like Transformers and those sorts of Scooby-Doos and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I love those. They're great. Yeah.
I'm thinking like Tailspin, DuckTales, Animaniacs.
Oh, they're good too. Gummy Bears.
That theme song for Gummy Bears, y'all. What were you saying there with the sharks? Go ahead, Squeaks.
Street Sharks.
Yeah. And Extreme Dinosaurs, Biker Mice from Mars.
Which are back now.
It's so deep. It's so deep, and that's why I wanted to create this podcast, because there's just so many things like that you watched for like a year or two, and it's just like you've got that in your brain, so share it. You know, all this knowledge and like different sorts of characters that sort of sat with you for a while, shaped who you are, and just everybody's went through that journey. So sharing it is awesome. So it's good.
Yeah. But now you started off with a D&D podcast. Why did you want to start a podcast back then?
Well, we'd been playing D&D for a little while, and then we were a pre-COVID podcast. So we got together and we had a lot of fun telling our stories. And then, I don't know, it was always something that I kind of wanted to do, and I always researched on how to do, just sort of how do I make this sound better, or how can I introduce audio visuals into our game just for us? And then it sort of got to, okay, I'm recording these now because as a DM, I've got a million things going on in my head and I can be really forgetful. So I'm like, I recorded it so I could listen back to it and then actually sort of remember the story that was sort of taking place. And then when I was listening back to it, I actually found myself like really laughing at the stuff that we were doing. I was like, I could share this. Like, this is good. Yeah. And I know everybody feels that way about their Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but you know, it's just, it was applauding for me. And it also gave me and my friends like a, we call it a campfire, like something that you can all just sit around and do. Like some people build cars together. Some people do woodwork together. Some people talk about sports or have a fantasy football league. We had a Dungeons and Dragons game. So it was just something that kept us connected, especially when COVID hit, because we were like 6 months before COVID, we started playing, recording, etc. One group I had beforehand, but we just combined everybody sort of together. And when COVID hit, we're just like, we still want to play. So, you know, we went through that whole ordeal. And then now there's 3 or 4 seasons of D&D Valiant Odyssey. And you can see the learning journey. I was telling you before, Frank, about how I started and my audio was pretty garbage fire, but then, you know, it sort of gets to that production value. And I feel like I've learned so much and I'm always on a learning journey, as we all are. So from humble beginnings to what it is now, it was just the fact that I found myself really entertained by the stuff we were doing and enjoying it too. So podcast.
Yeah. What about podcasting did you learn over time that you might share to somebody who's just starting?
Oh, there's so much to that you could just start with. Just
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
Yeah. So I know, like for a Dungeons and Dragons podcast specifically, I know it sounds easy to just all sit around one mic, but don't do that. Don't do that. It's
that's
so
our first ones, actually. It squeezes laughing for a reason.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's pretty tricky to sort of like filter through everything and just make it sort of the value or production value that you want. And there's so many D&D podcasts out there that you kind of do want to stand out, and you know, somebody will listen to your audio to start with and be like, oh, that's trash, I'll move to the next one. Like, that's just the game of podcasting. But you know, so really actually invest in, you don't have to buy like a $1,000 mic, but just, you know, get a low budget to mid budget mic for each player or each person that's podcasting. That's probably the best sort of starting point I can do it. But then also realize how much time it takes as well. And then also the biggest lesson that I have learned is you grow in a sort of session of time. It's not going to happen straight away. Yeah. Because you look at all these podcasts, like things like Critical Role, or, you know, all of the different podcasts in our sort of genre, film and TV, all that sort of stuff, like the Ringiverse and all that. They didn't start and then explode. It was slow growth. It was definitely something you have to be patient with. So just be patient if you're focused on growing, but also focus on having fun too. That projects. It really does. So if you're doing it as like a business, people know, you know, and people listen to podcasts for story, for entertainment, and for education, but they also want to connect. So don't forget that fourth one, that they want to know who you are and what makes you different from, because we're all different, and they want to know why they should listen to you.
That's perfect advice. Yeah. That individual mic thing, boy, sure rung true. I think I still have our Yeti back there we all circled around, and Squeaks back in the day used to rock back and forth, so his audio would be like this. And we'd have that Jonathan's refrigerator next to us, which I did not realize was very loud in the microphone, and it was, because it's a condenser mic. And it was like, oh my God, I hate those episodes.
Yeah. All of the different tools that you can use too in post-production now is just, they're a little learning journey on their own, aren't they? Because, you know, you've got your EQs, and then you've got your different kind of parametrics after that. And it's just, it's a lot that you can dive into and sink your teeth into. And you can either be an expert of it, or you can know a little bit, and you can still be, you know, a podcaster in your own right. So I think if you're starting out on your journey, don't be too hard on yourself, and make sure that you shine through in the work that you're doing as well.
Great advice. Excellent advice. Speaking about you shining through, before we close out, I want people to know who you are. Can you kind of give us a bio of what you're interested in yourself? What fandoms do you belong to? Obviously, D&D is one of them.
Yep. So D&D is definitely a big one. Also very big on Batman, as we talked about today as well. Really big comic book nerd. I've read comic books for a lot of my life. Lord of the Rings is something that's just sort of, I watch it every year between that sort of dead period between Christmas and New Year that nobody knows whether they exist or not. Exactly, yeah. And, you know, I used to do that when there were 3 movies, and now there's 6, so it fills out the time really well. So Lord of the Rings is good for me as well. I'm Marvel and DC sort of equally liked. I'm a gamer as well. Magic the Gathering is really awesome. I just love sort of deep diving into lore. Star Wars is huge. They're the fandoms that I belong to. But I'm always looking to expand my horizons as well and go down a new path and find a new rabbit hole to chase down. So I guess you could say me as a person, I'm very sort of curious. And also I'm creative. This is sort of a little bit of an outlet, I like to find the best way for me to explore the topic that comes up and answer the questions that you have. Me, myself, I do a lot of different things in terms of like, I'm a teacher by my job and I'm a father as well. I'm 34 years old. I actually play American football, even though I'm Australian.
Hey.
So I'm quarterback of the team here in the city. So
oh shit, good job.
It's just I'm a mixed sort of individual, and I'm just happy to be out here and doing the thing and being amongst people like you guys that do it really well and really professionally. So for me, it's dream come true. It's good.
You just mentioning American football just added an hour to this podcast. Me and Squeaks can go off on that a little bit. So
yeah. Well, offline, I can talk to you guys about it too. So that'd be great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So Fandom Portal, first off, you guys got to follow on social media because this is one of the best social media accounts I've ever seen to follow. A lot of fun to engage with. No, you do a great job and it's a blast to follow. So make sure you guys are doing that. All the links will be in the description, of course. And then I want you to subscribe. And the most important thing, I tell you to give reviews to Geek Freaks all the time. And hey, spoiler alert, you guys don't listen very well, but you need to listen this time. Mm-hmm. You got to give a review to Fandom Portals. The first few days, those reviews are so important. So drop a review for Fandom Portal, Apple Podcast. If you got Spotify, which I know you do, get Spotify too. Give them 5 stars. That's vital. And then, hey, make sure you let Aaron know, hey, I just reviewed you. It was a lot of fun. That way Aaron can share to the world and kind of get that going. That'd be great.
I'll share it. I'll make you quote marks famous. I'll definitely shout you out. Because I love hearing from, that's why I'm doing this, it's a community driven podcast. So want to hear from you. That's the way it goes. Yeah. And I appreciate anything, even if you just tell a friend about it. That's awesome.
That's good too. Absolutely.
It's really good.
All right, guys. Again, all the links in the description. Make sure you follow up on that. Before we head out, let's go for recommendations of the week. I'll kick us off. My recommendation for the week is going to be Futurama season 12. Just started over on Hulu. I'm a major Futurama fan, as you guys know. I'm an adult animation fan all around. Futurama is excellent, and it's already off to a really good start. So check that out. Squeaks, I'm looking at you. What is your recommendation for the week?
My recommendation, with all the latest news, and we talked about it earlier, is going to be the What If Iron Man Demon in Armor. Demon in Armor. Yeah.
Great one.
Case if you kind of want to see what route that the future Robert Downey Jr. Playing as Doomsday maybe pull some content from, check out this comic. It's only like a normal comic size, 30 pages, I think is what it is. And yeah.
And that cover too, is it the one where he's looking in the mirror and he's that he looks so insane. And so you're like, what's Tony up to now? Let's tune in. Aaron, what's your recommendation for the week?
So I reckon that my recommendation for the week will be that people go out and check out the Prime show called Those About to Die. That's my deep dive at the moment.
Oh, yeah, that's a Peacock.
Oh yeah, Peacock.
Yeah, I'm checking that out right now. Yeah,
it's got you can tell that a lot of the things are CGI on it, but I just really like the new take on the Roman Empire. I think the Gladiator sort of story has been done time and time again, but this really shows the underbelly and the gambling sort of aspect of it. It shows the perspective from 3 different strata of society, from the hustling gambler to the sports star to the emperor of Rome himself. It's just a really nice picture all around. 10 episodes or so long, starring the great Anthony Hopkins, and the fella from Game of Thrones as well as in it.
Ramsay Bolton from Game of Thrones, guys.
He's actually a bit of a devious fellow in this one too, so it won't be hard to make that connection. But I reckon you should go and check it out. Like, the first episode is good. There will be an episode of Fandom Portals on it too, because whatever I'm obsessed with, I make an episode about. So go check it out. It'll be good.
I forgot I watched it. I didn't even know the name of the show, but the CGI, like you said, but you could tell these characters, I'm invested in them already. And Anthony Hopkins looks like he's just tired of doing everybody around him, and it's perfect for his role in this.
Exactly. Yeah, no. I love a good historical drama, and Anthony Hopkins in it, just shaking his thumb around at his sons. Is just like, that's Anthony. There you go, mate. Because you can, because you've been around a while and you can. That's why you do it.
Yeah. What a cheat. Yeah. Okay, guys, that's everything for us this week. Make sure you guys follow everything in the description, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
See you later.